Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And yes, that's right, you read the title, you know what I'm reviewing. Yep, this one, almost up to an hour documentary, coming straight from D23, the folks at D23, and whom is our tour guide slash host for this documentary. And well, you know, because this documentary making its way to Disney Plus, yeah, this kind of documentary is something that just, you just would love to see. For any of us Disney fanatics who love stuff that has been kept in storage, the archives, the props, rather they be from, say, the movies, TV, the theme parks, or any, stuff for press and so on, stuff that was around, during the time of, Walt Disney, the 9 Old Men, the good old days of the Disney studios, and, just need I go on? Need I go on? Yeah, this documentary has it all. And even though they, because I'm sure for some of us, including me, because you'd think that they would really show a humongous amount of stuff being kept in the Walt Disney archives. Well, not exactly. I mean, but that's not to say that all that has been shown in this documentary is a disappointment. No. And besides, this isn't the only one where we go behind the doors and backstage and exploring through the archives and stuff like that. No. And you know that too. There's been plenty of other materials where we've seen some numerous props and archives, stuff, even say stuff that is no longer in the Disney parks. That's right, guys. I am finally reviewing this documentary that, yeah, because it's amazing with what this documentary has to offer. Yes, Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives. Yes, Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives. This documentary, for me, and the first things I have to say about it, not a disappointment. I don't know what took me so long to get around to this. I think maybe I want to say I knew just a little about this documentary's existence. Because, I knew, and when I looked into it some more, I was like, what have I been missing out? This is something right up my alley, because I'm like you guys. I'm a freak, in a good way, of course, when it comes to, say, kept and restored props and items, as I said, rather if they're from the parks, the movies, shows, anything Disney, and even with the addition of, say, 20th Century Fox, now being a part of the Disney family, the stuff that they have. Yeah, it's amazing. Having to watch this, and again, the fact that this is just almost about, say, up to 1 hour, but really, because it's, 59 minutes and such, yeah, I was enjoying it. I really was. It did not disappoint for me. Everything that this documentary had to offer from beginning to end, and our guide and host, Don Hahn, taking us through anything, of the Disney archives, rather it be at the Walt Disney Studios, or at Disneyland, or at a warehouse, just anything, yeah. Amazing. And all that is involved and are a part of this documentary, talking about some stuff that they remember so fondly, or, being a part of the Disney family. Like, one thing that's brought up, and rightfully so, the Disney Legends, and how the Disney Legends thing started. Yeah, again, it's just amazing. I'm glad to have finally have gotten around and to watch this documentary, and as of now, me reviewing it. And you guys are watching my review of it. Yeah, so overall, the Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives is a really good documentary for us Disney fanatics who also and especially love anything where Disney has kept some of their most valuable possessions, some treasures. You get my point. It's really good. It really is. And again, even though it's almost up to, say, 1 hour, just at up to 59 minutes, and that's the running time even when I was watching it on Disney Plus. But yeah. All right, so with that out of the way, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Explore the rich history of the Walt Disney Archives as legendary producer and host Don Hahn tours rarely seen areas of the department's vast collections along with beloved Disney locations through an engaging historical lens. Yeah. All right, so getting into the documentary itself, yeah, because again, Don Hahn, who, pretty much like I would say a prime staple of the Disney family, and he's produced so many Disney materials, like, rather if they be, say, feature animation or live action. Like, I can think of, say, how much he was involved in, say, Beauty and the Beast, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and on the side of live action, well, The Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy, the live action Beauty and the Beast, the list goes on, yeah. And some documentaries that he's done, like other documentaries, most notably, one of my favorites, Waking Sleeping Beauty, yeah. Yeah. Being our tour and host for this, and most notably, how he's desperately, but even though he really doesn't have a problem with the different locations he goes to, looking at numerous archives, props, and, press stuff, he's throughout this documentary trying to get to Walt's original office, Walt Disney's office. Yeah, that's his main goal in this documentary. And yeah, can't forget to mention that because it's obvious that for this documentary, we would get and talk about Walt's office. And I had a feeling as though, and it's obvious that, Walt Disney's original office would be saved for last, and that's exactly what happens. But yeah, the journey and adventure that Don takes us throughout this documentary, and again, when he's even trying to get to Walt's original office, fully restored and just exactly as how it looked when Walt was around, yeah, the props and the history and facts that are talked about, like from, say, Walt's original home, which being in Woking Way, yeah. And this was Walt's first house, fourth home, yeah, that he lived in. So the house that we explore, not to mention some famous photos taken, like the one where Walt is standing right outside of a door and we see the shadow of Mickey, that one, and they're standing right exactly where Walt stood, or like one room where there's a couple of Mickey Mouse dolls, or out in the backyard, the clubhouse that Walt had specifically built for his two daughters. Yeah, all that's still being there. That's amazing. And not to mention because that being a tour destination, Walt's home. Well, not to mention, like, say, the home he grew up in Chicago, that as well. Anything that Walt Disney, stepped foot in and he lived in, pretty much, yeah. So that was amazing that, having one of Walt's homes, and the one that he lived specifically with his wife and daughters in Woking Way. That was amazing. Or say, like, looking at some archival press photos, and even, say, a contract. The contract that Walt and his brother wrote along with their uncle, because, yeah, when the Disney Studios started in October of 1923. That's amazing that it's, and seeing that it's still in still good condition, and seeing Walt and his brother's signatures, their names being written, and how, well, because Walt's signature, like, and how it's written, like, say, for the Disney logo and on my shirt. It's amazing. And yeah, and also, like, press photos and stuff like that from the premiere of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs at Carthay Circle Theater, yeah, in Los Angeles. That's where Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs first premiered, as well as, say, other great films like The Wizard of Oz, and from what I'm looking at, because, yeah, films like, say, The Wizard of Oz, Pinocchio, I'm pretty sure, yeah, at least that's as far as I recall. And, well, because, and actually, oh, yeah, and fun fact, because You know, it was a full house, the premiere of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs at the Carthay Circle Theater in Los Angeles. Some of the audience members were big names like Marilyn Dietrich, if I'm saying the last name right, Judy Garland, Hedy Lamarr, and Charlie Chaplin and Shirley Temple. Oh yeah, I mean, we of course remember specifically that Shirley Temple, you know, specifically presented Walt with the Oscar trophies and small ones because, you know, the Seven Dwarfs. And, you know, the interview that Shirley has with Walt Disney, if anybody's seen that, I have, of course. And also, not to mention, there was also a photo taken, I believe maybe it was at a docking bay or something, I can't remember, but, you know, the one with Walt and Charlie Chaplin, that one, that's a pretty good one, too. You know, when Walt Disney and Charlie Chaplin, like two iconic figures in Hollywood, when they cross paths, it's amazing. And no doubt because, well, Charlie Chaplin, he admired what Walt was doing at that time. Yeah. Anyways, and also other, like, say, press pictures, publicity photos, even some that did not make it out in public, that Walt specifically chose for not to be, you know, used for publicity and so on. Like say, the Parent Trap. There's a little bit of the Parent Trap that's talked about, and how there are some X's written on certain photos, you know, kill off. That was Walt's way of, you know, this will not be for, you know, public and such, you know, press photos and such. Yeah, choosing the specific ones that, okay, we'll go with this one, we'll go with that, and not every single photo, you know, obviously being used for the public and publicity and such, and for, you know, for the Parent Trap, you know. Also, one of my favorite parts, and yeah, because this is where some really good treasures await. A warehouse where, yeah, a lot of props, costumes, and stuff from the theme parks reside. Like, Don, he specifically, you know, is just eager to sit in one of the Heimlich ride vehicles, you know, the Heimlich choo-choo train that used to be in the now-defunct Bugs Land. Yeah, he gets to sit in that. You can even see in the background one of those not Heimlich, Francis ride vehicles, the spinning Francis ride in a Bugs Land. That, and some of the other props that we see in the warehouse, like, there's a little bit of Dick Tracy, like one of the Dick Tracy villains. We see like a mold of it, like the head. We even see where the prop where Roger Rabbit, you know, crashed through the blinds in R.K. Maroon's office. There's that. That's actually, you know, been shown a good chunk of times, like, say, I think, like, say, at D23 and anything else with the Disney archives. Or, say, some costumes from, say, I believe, yeah, I can tell that's the Mary Poppins costume from Mary Poppins Returns. Emily Blunt, of course, that she wore. And, well, as I said earlier, with the addition of some stuff from 20th Century Fox / Studios, like a bit of Planet of the Apes, Alien, like an Alien poster, or, you know, seeing the animatronic of the Xenomorph from the Great Movie Ride, one of those two. Or, say, one of Nicole Kidman's costumes from Moulin Rouge. Yeah, that's really cool. Or even, say, the Tron arcade game that was, well, obviously used in the movie Tron. Or seen Maximus, you know, the scary robot from the black hole. And there's a few, like, concept art pieces and such of the black hole that are shown. Don Hahn also being involved in that. Yeah, and just a lot of stuff that Don Hahn remembers so well, and stuff that he was actually involved with, you know, like the movies and so on. Like, again, Tron, I think, yeah, Tron, Black Hole, and Roger Rabbit. And they even at one point show a model, a small model of the Ditmobile, and Don Hahn talking about his time working on Roger Rabbit and with ILM making miniatures, and the fact that they pretty much shot most of Roger Rabbit in London, and even a mention of they actually have the life-sized version of the Ditmobile that was used. But the fact we never see it in the documentary, why? Even Don Hahn was wanting to see that. Why was it not? It's just one of those things, you know. And hopefully, yeah, because the Ditmobile being in really good condition. But yeah, anyways, and even a small world animatronic that's shown, and some of the props from the live-action Beauty and the Beast film, which Dawn was also a part of. Yeah, and it's very fitting, because from him and Alan Menken, they were involved in the original animated version, and only necessary, of course, that some of them, most notably Menken and Hahn, being involved in the live-action. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, because Don Hahn being a producer and Alan Menken, of course, doing the songs and putting in new lyrics and a few new additional songs. Yeah. Yeah, not to mention because some lyrics that did not make it into some specific songs, like most notably Tale as Old as Time, the Beauty and the Beast main theme song, a few lyrics that did not make it into the original that Howard Ashman did write, like Winter Turns to Spring, that, okay? Howard Ashman did write that. But anyways, and also, continuing on, because, well, more costumes and wardrobe props that are shown in the warehouse, like most notably, stuff from Mary Poppins, the first and original Mary Poppins, like the carousel horses, for example. I do remember seeing one of them. Maybe it was the one that is the one that Mary Poppins rode. I'm pretty sure, yeah. It used to be in the queue, and it stayed there for quite a long time until, well, that became defunct. The Great Movie Ride. I'm sure you guys remember that too, any of you that had been on the Great Movie Ride. Yeah, so that was there for a while. Well, because, at times, they would swap out props and costumes in the queue for the Great Movie Ride for something else. Like, I remember they had Freddy Krueger's shirt. They had a couple of costumes from Star Trek The Motion Picture. I got to see that. Even getting to see the original chess table from hologram chess table from A New Hope. I remember when me and my parents, one time we went to Disney and we went on the Great Movie Ride. My dad, he just melted at the sight of the original actual prop from A New Hope. Wouldn't you? Just, yeah. Even, they also for a while had the Ark of the Covenant from Raiders of the Lost Ark. They had that too. And that just occurred to me because, they don't really, this documentary, Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives, they really don't. Why didn't they? Because that would be something, just, They didn't show any props or anything from, say, Indiana Jones or Star Wars. I wonder why. Or, hey, most notably, Star Tours? Come on. Or anything Muppets? Why were they left out? I guess it's just one of those things, and not intentional, just, I mean, come on, because we had some stuff from 20th Century Fox shown, so what was wrong if they considered and found a way to also show some stuff from anything Muppets or Star Wars, Indiana Jones? You get my point. But I'm not complaining, okay? Because even if not every single thing was shown in this documentary, it still turned out really good. Yeah. Also, again, as I was saying, like, stuff from Mary Poppins, like, two of the carousel horses, the one that Julie Andrews rode, and the one that Dick Van rode as well. In fact, the one that Julie Andrews rode, the one that Mary Poppins rode on, they kept that in good condition, like repainting it and touching it up. But as for the one that Bert rode on, they just kept it the same way it was since day one. The same, paint and such. Like, yeah, they never touched it up. Why? I mean, they could if they want to, but not that I'm complaining. I'm just saying. Not to mention, I know that the carousel horse that Bert rode like, the face of the horse resembles a little bit of Dick Van Dyke, if you know that. Yeah. And also Mary Poppins' bag. Yeah, them showing that as well. And I think a little bit of, say, like, the umbrellas, Mary Poppins umbrellas with the parrot top. Yeah, that as well. A little bit of that. Also, matte paintings that had been kept from, say, Mary Poppins, Tron. It's really amazing, yeah. And a little bit of, say, the Black Hole, yeah. And also stuff that is shown at Disneyland, because, well, obviously, the Walt Disney Studios, and especially because, with the Disney Archives being in California, pretty cool, because, like, okay, and I didn't name some of the people that are a part of this documentary. Might as well now. Those that aside, okay, so I've mentioned Don Hahn. The others that are involved and are a part of this documentary, well, some of them, just a few of them with archival footage. I'll get to them later. Those that are actually that are part of this documentary, Michael, and I also want to point out some of them, well, them working in the Walt Disney Archives and, handling the archive materials and such, okay? So, yeah. Michael Bakoff, I think I'm saying that right. Marcy Karagir, I think if I'm saying that right too. Becky Klein, she has a, heavy influence and is a part of this heavily, in this documentary, and always crossing paths with Dawn and whatever it is that she has that, she talks about and shows to Dawn and us, the audience / viewers. Pete Docter making an appearance. Kevin Feige, Mark Hamill, Robert A. Iger / Bob Iger, Leslie Iwerks, the granddaughter of Iwerks, Leonard Maltin, Floyd Norman, one of the Disney legends and one of the, legendary animator and who got to work alongside with Walt, Floyd Norman, Tim O'Day, Ed O'Vale, if I'm saying that right, Ty Popko, I think I'm saying that right as well, and those that do appear, but just, archival footage. There's Catherine Beaumont, the original voices of Alice and Wendy Darling, Kurt Russell, the late Richard M. Sherman, and the late Marty Sklar, and most notably, the late Dave Smith, whom Dave Smith is the man responsible and started the Walt Disney Archives. Yeah, him. It's very fitting that, even though, unfortunately he sadly passed away, still, finding a way to incorporate him in the documentary. Yeah, but I'll talk about that later and when he shows up. And the same goes for the other three that, only appear via archive footage. Kurt Russell, Richard M. Sherman, and Marty Sklar. Yeah. And Catherine Beaumont as well. Yeah. They show up towards the end of the documentary, but until I get there. So again, when it comes to, say, Disneyland, most notably at the Disneyland Railroad, again, Don Hahn crossing paths a lot with Becky Klein. Because, basically, like, showing, the original Mickey Mouse plush that was used the very first time that the Disneyland Railroad Express rode, drove and such on the rail tracks, and that famous footage where Walt is hanging out of the train window and the Mickey Mouse plush waving, you can see Walt smiling. That one, oh, that's so awesome. Even, like, Dawn is puzzled, like, because of Becky popping up here and there, and how is she doing that? Well, she has her ways, and we can even see, she has the Bedknobs and Broomsticks bed knob. Well, there you go. But of course, that's part of the joke, yeah. And to name some of the others that are part of this, because, from, say, Pete Docter, Kevin Feige, and Leslie Iwerks, their appearances in the documentary, well, pretty much because they talk about, say, the memories they have and the fact that them being a part of this, of Disney and getting to experience some things yet we wouldn't normally be seeing. Even Kevin Feige mentioning about, Horizons, the defunct Epcot attraction that is now Test Track. That attraction, that house hold so many animatronics. And Kevin Feige pointing out one specific animatronic, just the head, where one animatronic, it's a caveman, where, his foot is burned, he's blowing on it. That one. And I can tell that's the same animatronic face mold that was used for a good chunk of other animatronics, like, say, the ghost that blows the birthday candles, or the bagpipe player, that too, or the one pirate in the jail cell in Pirates of the Caribbean whistling for the dog as he's holding the rope. Yeah, that face mold. That's been used for a good chunk of animatronics that I just mentioned, yeah. But, the only difference with, like, as I just mentioned, the one ghost in the ballroom where she's blowing out candles on a cake, well, the only difference is, like, her eyes are shut, blowing the candles. But it's still the same thing, the same face mold. Anyways, So that's really cool. Or even like, say, Leslie Iwerks, a documentary, because she's done some good documentaries, like one of my favorites that she's done, the Pixar Story, and one that she's done about her grandfather, and the fact that, and as she explains, she never really got to know her grandfather because she was 1 year old when her grandfather sadly passed away. That's unfortunate. And her getting complete access in the files of what her grandfather worked on and such, and according to her, like, she pretty much, like, spent a good couple of days, I should say, looking through all the stuff that, you know, that her grandfather worked on, and to know more about her grandfather. Yeah, that's amazing, and it's very fitting, and rightfully so, and very sweet of the Disney company, well, allowing the granddaughter of Ub Iwerks, where, you know, because Ub Iwerks, he doesn't get that much credit as, say, Walt himself, because it's really, say, both Walt Disney and Ub Iwerks that really made what Disney is, you know, with its animation. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's not just Walt Disney. We also got to give credit to Ub Iwerks. And, you know, not just Ub Iwerks, but also another great figure who was also responsible for the start of the Disney company, well, Walt's brother Roy, because Walt's brother Roy being talked about a good chunk of times. Yeah, because, again, keep in mind, both Disney brothers, they started the Walt Disney Studios, the whole thing in the first place, again, in the year of 1923 in the month of October. Yeah. Yeah, so it's amazing because, like, you know, from Pete Docter, Kevin Feige, Leslie Iwerks, what they talk about, and yeah, I didn't notice because, yeah, as I mentioned, Floyd Norman making an appearance, but just, you know, through archival footage. Okay, you know, here's something else. Like, it is a shame that they didn't get almost every other, like, Disney legend and who was still alive at the time. But even if they didn't, like, they could have used archival footage if they found a way and if they considered it. Like I said, it's okay, you know, and the documentary still turned out fine. Even, like, if like, say, me or anybody else, we think of some things like, oh, you know, this or that should have been in this documentary, you know? Like, I'm thinking of, say, like, whom I think it would have been nice to see also make an appearance in this documentary, other Disney legends. Alice Davis, the wife of Mark Davis, Rolly Crump, and Bob Gurr. Come on, that would have been great to have them in there, too. I mean, yeah, they're technically acknowledged, even some of those that, still had passed away from, say, Mark Davis, Frank and Ollie, Claude Coates, and I'm pretty sure, I don't think so, because Blaine Gibson, not Bob, Blaine Gibson, yeah. But, you know, it's okay, still. How this documentary turned out. Also, Leonard Maltin, oh yeah, because we'll get to Leonard Martin later as well, but yeah. Also, let's talk about, say, the Disney Legends, yeah. Now, the Disney Legends, when that started, it began in 1987, and one of the very first people to be crowned as a Disney legend, the late legendary Fred MacMurray. Yeah, he was one of the very first people to be crowned and to be considered a Disney legend and winning the Disney Legends Award. And what's-in-face, who designed and created the Disney Legends Award, and as well as did a bunch of other, like, art pieces at Disney, like, say, yeah, he was responsible for, say, the iconic poster for the original Beauty and the Beast. I'll remember to put his name in a text, because it seems necessary and can't forget to mention him, yeah. Another big influence he had at Disney. Yeah, so with talking about the Disney Legends and at the Walt Disney Studios and where all of the handprints reside from Fred MacMurray or, say, Frank and Ollie, Mark Davis, Sterling Holloway, and even a couple of the Star Wars cast members like, well, Mark Hamill and George Lucas, even one for Carrie Fisher. And, yeah, unfortunate because, she sadly passed away right before, she would be considered and crowned a Disney legend. And Mark Hamill being a part of this, if I had mentioned him already. Mark Hamill talking about what it was like when he heard that he was going to become a Disney legend, and his experience and memories with the Disney parks and with the Walt Disney Studios, and talking a lot of great stuff about Walt Disney. And it's, because, if, meeting Walt Disney, like if you're meeting, say, Abraham Lincoln, how Mark Hamill says it. A nice way to put at it. And him talking about how, I couldn't agree more. And the same goes for all of us. How, it's a shame that Carrie Fisher, did not live to, be there and to accept being a Disney legend. But no doubt, of course, that she definitely would. And Mark talking about, while it was still fun when he was there and everybody else at that time, being Disney legends along with him, a little, less fun if, with Carrie not being there. And Mark Hamill making a comment that if she were here today and with Mark Hamill talking about her and such, pardon me, but, basically Carrie behind the camera would have basically flipped the bird at Mark Hamill to try to get him to laugh. Well, that's Carrie Fisher for you, and knowing her and her sense of humor. So yeah, but yeah, it's great with Mark Hamill's appearance and what he talks about with becoming a Disney legend and his side of Disney and Walt Disney himself. It's amazing. So it's great to see with the segment of, talking about the Disney legends and with the Disney Legends Award. Yeah, it's real amazing. And a funny moment, one more moment that we have with Mark Hamill, where apparently Mark uses the Force on Don Hahn. You will go to the digitization labs, and also telling Don that, consider inviting me to go to Disneyland and having a corn dog. That's funny, because a little earlier, Don Hahn was having a piece of a corn dog at Disneyland. It was pretty funny. But yeah, that was pretty funny, because the Jedi mind trick that Mark does on Don Hahn. So funny. And yeah, and speaking of the digitization labs, because when we come to that, seeing pictures being taken of, like, say, some models and turning them into 3D with the photos, that whole thing, like, say, a model of one of the dwarf cars, of the defunct Snow White Scary Adventures, well, at Disney World, but, still. Same track system and ride vehicle at all the other Snow White attractions. But of course, mentioning the defunct version of Snow White Scary Adventures at Disney World, of course. And even, like, say, showing off the art piece of the Beauty and the Beast poster, and a bunch of other great stuff, in the digitization labs at Disney. Really cool. And a bunch of other stuff that they talk about, anything that I'm missing and such, but, it's really amazing. Even, like, say, at the original Walt Disney Studios, the Mickey Mouse and Dopey Street, that sign, and how it's always looked the same, and famous figures like, say, Walt Disney or anybody else, standing right next to that sign. It's amazing. It would have been nice, because they really, this documentary doesn't cover this. I don't know why, because it now just dawned on me as well. Any saved pieces of paper, animating Disney characters, you flip the pages and they come to life, that whole thing. Yeah, it's not talked about in this documentary, because pretty much that is another, staple, and, a good chunk of them being archived. Right? Because I'm just saying, you know. Also, again, as I mentioned already, some of the matte paintings that are shown, again, from, say, Tron, Mary Poppins, you know, you see the streets of London and, like, an office room from Tron, yeah, and a little bit of Black Hole, as I said. But also, one part in the documentary where character models are shown, because, well, as always with anything animation, like whether they be, say, hand-drawn or computer, there always has to be a model kit, like, you know, models of characters, so they can, you know, incorporate that, rather say on paper or computer, that whole stuff. And some that have been kept for, you know, they most notably show the character models from Pinocchio, from Geppetto and Jiminy Cricket. Yeah, it's really amazing. And yeah, now let's come up to it, because we're near the end. When finally, Don makes his way to Walt Disney's original office. And when we cut to Leonard Nimoy talking about that as well, like from Leonard Nimoy and Robert Iger talking about, you know, the plans for the restoration of Walt's office when that was talked about, and yeah, plans were on the way to restore Walt's office almost exactly as how it looked when, you know, when he stepped foot in his office. Yeah, Walt Disney. And yeah, when Don finally steps foot in Walt's office, and yeah, just amazing how it looks. You know, even, I'm sure some of us, including me, we've seen this where, like, say at, One Man's Dream, but it's gone by a different name now, at Disney's Hollywood Studios, how they recreated Walt's office, you know, a duplicate of it, or say at the Walt Disney Treasures Museum. I know that, and shout out to my friend Tiki from So You Want to Be an Imagineer, he volunteered at that place. Yeah, so surely, yeah, he would know about that as well. And seeing that too. Oh, and not to mention other, like, pieces of paper and stuff like that that they show. Like, yeah, I just remembered this. How they show one of the books from one of the Disney animated fairy tales, the Sleeping Beauty book. Yeah, that is shown, and yeah, because from the books of Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, and Cinderella, those had been saved in the archives and then being restored, and most notably with the Sleeping Beauty book that opens, you know, the movie Sleeping Beauty, well, according to, yeah, to those that, you know, in the Disney archives, they, you know, they had to restore the book. In fact, they even had to take out the pages that were in the book that we see in the movie, and with the narrator. Yeah, the pages from, say, Maleficent's, you know, castle, or, you know, the kingdom of King Stefan. And, you know, on that most joyful day, I think, yeah, because according to them, they had to remove those pages and replace them with blank paper, and some bits and pieces on the Sleeping Beauty book they had to repaint and touch up a bit, especially with the jewels that, you know, that are on the book cover of Sleeping Beauty. Yeah. But it's amazing. It's amazing because it almost looks exactly as how it looks in the movie Sleeping Beauty. It's amazing. But coming back to Walt's office, yeah, because again, when Dawn finally steps foot in Walt's office, well, one of Walt's main office rooms, this one, where he basically mainly greeted people, visitors, and when, you know, he would appear on television. However, there's another room in the office that's more of a work office, where he would meet, you know, executives and stuff like that, and when coming up with ideas and plans for, like, say, movies or Disney parks, that whole thing. And also, it's mentioned that Walt was a bit messy, because, like, as an example, like, he would leave out his colored pencils on his table to whatever it is that he was going to draw or write. Hey, we can all be like that sometimes, and nice to see that Walt was like that too. Yeah. Great man like himself being a little messy, you know, because it doesn't fail, and it's okay to be a little messy for what it is that you're specifically doing, right? But of course, you know, still have to tidy up a little. And obviously, Walt did the same thing too. Also, I didn't quite know about this, really, because there in Walt's office, he had a kitchen, and by snapping the fingers, the doors automatically open, and we see the kitchen, which, residing in Walt's office. And apparently, nice to see that it stayed exactly the same as it looked, and when Walt was around, yeah, it's amazing, yeah. And yeah, then we see, we cut to some archival footage of those that I mentioned, and yeah, them in Walt's office, from Catherine Beaumont, Kurt Russell, Richard M. Sherman, Marty Sklar, and Dave Smith. And, well, Dave Smith having a huge involvement with the planned restoration of Walt's office, and, how just insane it is to step foot in Walt's office, for him and the others. And when it comes to Richard M. Sherman, well, most notably, and I think we all should know this, whenever both he and his brother Bob, stepping foot in Walt's office, and even when Walt was around, whenever they would be in the office with him, well, every time, and even after Walt passed away and Robert was not around anymore that much, and moved to London, Richard, he would always come to Walt's office, I think, every Friday, and always playing that tune. And, Walt didn't even have to say what song he wanted them to play, play that, boys. And yeah, they knew exactly what he wanted. And that, of course, being Feed the Birds. And we actually hear a little bit of Richard singing it. Yeah, it's amazing. And as he's singing it, the others that appear, through archival footage from Kurt Russell, Marty Sklar, Dave Smith, as we hear Richard in the background singing, and each of them talking about, when it came to them stepping foot in Walt's office and the memories they had. Just amazing, yeah. And right before the documentary finishes, well, Don Hahn getting one last look at Walt's office, and when he once again crossed paths with Becky, and, well, towards the end, Don suggests that, they should walk off together and dance off into the sunset. And with that, I was saying to myself and watching it, hey, just like the Jungle Book, and that's what should have happened. Like, maybe we should have seen, but nah, yeah. But I think it's obvious. Like, that's clearly a reference to that in the Jungle Book, right? Because Baloo and Bagheera walking/dancing off into the sunset at the very end of the Jungle Book, and one last time, reprising singing Bare Necessities. Yeah, so. And fun fact, because not being in the documentary, but I still feel like talking about this from the making of the Jungle Book. Ollie Johnson talking about when chatting with Walt's nurse, her name almost slipping on my head. Mills, I think that's her last name. Overall, yeah, Walt's nurse. Having a little chat with her, and talking a little bit about the Jungle Book and Walt himself, and Ollie mentioning about the last shot of the Jungle Book where Baloo and Bagheera walk/dance off into the sunset. And Walt's nurse responds, that's just the way Walt did. He walked off and danced off into the sunsets. And yeah, it's so obvious. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah. It was great to see how this documentary ends, and yeah, with what Dawn suggests to Becky, them walking/dancing off into the sunset, even though we really don't see that. They just walk off, out of Walt's office, and when the lights are being turned off, yeah. But a great way to end off the documentary for sure, yeah. And it's a shame, because I was expecting, and not everybody is, and looking at it on its IMDb page, nobody else, say, from the Walt Disney Archives are credited. But you know what? Because I'll remember to do so, yeah, because, text, putting in a text, their names, because, yeah, they deserve to be credited, don't you think? Yeah. How much of a big part they have in the Walt Disney Archives, and, for this documentary, without a doubt. Yeah. Yeah, so, yep. Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives, again. It's a really good documentary. on the archives of the Walt Disney Studios, whether they be, say, from the theme parks, movies, TV, press photos, pieces of paper, like, most notably from the contract that started it all with the Disney Studios, or say stuff from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the movie's premiere, the Mary Poppins stuff, and stuff from the Disney parks, the Disney legends, the matte paintings, the models, everything that had always been kept in safe and sound in the archives, the warehouses, need I go on? Oh, and you know what? I almost forgot to mention this, because another thing that I saw in the segment where Dawn, arrives at the warehouse and is sitting in the Heimlich choo-choo train vehicle ride, and, that used to be in the Bugs Land place. I also noticed the robot from Tomorrowland, with handing out the newspapers, and you would see him like right next to, the queue of the People Mover. You know what I'm talking about, yeah. Man, it's a shame that they removed that robot. I forget the specific reason, but, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way too, like, oh man, why'd you have to get rid of the robot? He was a great staple of Tomorrowland. But rest assured, he's safe and sound in the warehouse of the archives of anything from the movies, theme parks, and such, yeah, so that's nice to know. Yeah, so, and also, it's also a shame, like, say, I was also thinking of, say, Dame Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke. It would have also been nice to see them make an appearance, and maybe possibly archival footage of Robert B. Sherman. That would have been nice too, but yeah. Anyways, so yeah. The documentary itself, Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives, again, it's a really good documentary with what all they've shown in this documentary. Not every single one of that's in the archives, but still, it still turned out great with all that they were able to show in this documentary. Yeah, just what more do I have to say? Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives, a really good documentary from the people at D23, and with Don Hahn being our host slash tour guide from beginning to end. Yeah, fantastic. And I'm giving Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives, well, what the heck, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives. And what about you guys? What do you think of the documentary itself? Anything that you enjoyed that this documentary had to offer from beginning to end? All the numerous props and items that had been archived and safe and sound, like rather, physical props or anything like that from the movies and shows, stuff from the theme parks, from defunct attractions, or, say, from pieces of paper, locations that Don Hahn goes to, like, most notably Walt's home, the Walt Disney Studios with the Disney legends, or, going to Disneyland and what was shown there, and not even Disney World. That would have been nice as well, but it's okay, again, And those that appeared in this documentary, and with some funny moments, like, most notably, and as I talked about, Mark Hamill doing a Jedi mind trick on Don Hahn of the digitization labs, and the mentioning of a corn dog inviting Mark to join Dawn at Disneyland for a corn dog. That was funny, yeah. And the interactions that Dawn has with the people that work at the Walt Disney Archives. Yeah, just overall, what do you think of the documentary itself? And also, did you get a bit emotional by any chance with what was in this documentary? Like, hey, most notably, when it came to Walt's office, and those just, some through archive footage, them appearing, just, yeah, again, overall, what do you think of the documentary itself? And with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments, and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Adventure Through the Walt Disney Archives, the documentary that is focused on the Walt Disney Archives and with Don Hahn being our guide and host. Just what more do I have to say? A great documentary. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video /review. Take care, and peace out.